Well, there is the cover of the Drudge Report. We'll put it back up on screen for folks, for people that want to see it. Big Sis wants to see under your clothes. Yes, the complete Orwellian society arrives, and Homeland Security announces they want mobile naked body scanners, brain scanners on the streets, football games, high school, college, NFL, Kentucky Derby. You want to go anywhere in public, you're going to be humiliated, and a biometric 360 naked body scan is going to be made. And Obama is ordering an additional $1 billion in naked body scanners, according to the Toledo Blade today. And here's the Associated Press. Mind-reading systems could change air security. So complete and total quackery. They're not reading your mind. This is just another way to interrogate you and claim that you're a thought criminal. We literally are living in a nightmare Buck Rogers society. But we're not flying around with silver jetpacks, no. All the technology is being used to enslave humanity. The good news is the head of American Airlines says he doesn't want the naked body scanners and they don't work, and points out what security experts have already said. The underwear bomber on Christmas Day was brought through security. They had naked body scanners in the Amsterdam airport. They weren't used, and they wouldn't even have detected his underwear bomb, the large firecracker he had in his pants. So that is all coming up today. You know, in the history books, how did America end? How do we become a high-tech police state? How did Americans let them naked body scan their children, their wives, their husbands? Oh, somebody had a firecracker on an airplane. Land of the coward, home of the slaves. You know, when the wind blows, the American people slit their wrist and worship government and just scream, oh, God, we love you, government. Take all our rights away. So we're going to be breaking that down today. We have Damon Vickers, who is a syndicated radio host in his own right. He is a pundit on CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Barron's, Investors Business Daily. He heads up 9 Points Capital Partners, and the website is npm.us, 9 Points management.us. So npm.us, and he's with us for the balance of the hour. I agree with him a lot about gold being a good investment, the dollar being in trouble, world government being established. I don't agree with him that we have too many people, and we'll debate that some today. Some of our listeners really liked Mr. Vickers on his economic views, didn't like him on his population views. But he is back with us due to popular demand, and we appreciate Mr. Vickers joining us. Good to have you here with us.
Alex, I love you. You run a great show, and I have to say that I purchased your Fall of the Republic and New World Order movies, and I watched them thoroughly, and I watched, I think, one of them at least twice, and they're well done, and they're thought-provoking, and I think for a society and a world at large that spends too many hours per day comatose, DVDs like that and content like that can really wake people up, and they're great. They're great movies. They really
and
are.
You also noticed something that I hadn't noticed in New World Order that I consulted on them in, but it's not my film, though my name is on the back of it. They just did that for promotion purposes, I guess. Infowars.com is there as one of the producers for some reason. But it's like an honorary degree or something. I don't deserve it. But I'm driving around on the radio and tuning into your radio show as they're interviewing me, and so there's a snip of you in New World Order. So certainly a strange coincidence.
It's strange, yeah, especially with the New World Order thing, yeah. Well, I mean, that was years. I don't do a radio show anymore, but there was a time that I was on about 45 stations, 5 days a week, for 2 to 3 hours a day, and during that period between 2000 and 2003, when the NASDAQ was collapsing, I spent a good part of my radio show, bashing the CNBCs and the Bush administration and the like. So the trend was certainly down, and there were cheerleaders for a collapsing market, and I wasn't one of them.
Now, Damon, briefly tell us a little bit about your business operation and some of its success, because that's really why we have you here, is because you've been one of the most accurate and successful people out there in predicting where things are going.
Well, I run a fund, and we also run a private wealth side. Our fund, 9 Points Capital Partners, had a fantastic year in 2008. 2008 was arguably one of the worst years in market history, with trillions of dollars of value being wiped out, and our fund rose by 63% that year, which is a pretty good thing. So we made money in a bear market, and more than a little. I'm also, if you take a look at the 2000 to 2003 period, we were short during that whole duration as well. And when 9/11 hit, we were 100% short. And not because I had inside information or anything like that, but because the trend was very decidedly down. And that's something that we believe that news, that we can't necessarily always know what the news can be. We can monitor what the trends are, what the societal trends are. I think you do a great job at that, Alex. But the news tends to reinforce whatever our positions usually are, if the trend is either up or down. So we're flexible, we're fluid, our style is adaptive, and so that I think that gives us an edge as investors. Other investors are more attached to what they think they know, or they're worrying about the future, but they're not really living in the present, and that's something that we don't do. Living in the present is what we do here at 9 Points Management and Research and at 9 Points Capital Partners.
Okay, I want to get into the economy and what you see in the year 2010 with Damon Vickers. But first, let's go back to the controversy of the last time you were on with us 3 months ago. You were talking about your view on world overpopulation and that, something must be done about it. And from my research, that's really the governing push for world government, according to the UN's own statements, is to set up a planetary government, as the White House science czar has said, to order a one-child policy. The UN, a few weeks ago at Copenhagen, called for a global one-child policy. The Communist Chinese called for that. There have been editorials all over the newspapers and on TV calling for, in fact, the BBC says, should we bring back rationing today? I have that article right here for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers who aren't tuning in on the radio but watching us at PrisonPlanet.tv. Should we bring back rationing to save the environment? I mean, that is hardcore tyranny. What is your real view on world population, and how do you substantiate that we're overpopulated, and what do you say we do then?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the Chinese. Because when we think of the Chinese, they were a country and a society that was so enmeshed in malaise. They'd had some very austere programs under Mao and a rejection of their emperor system and all that, and they went to that one-child system, and I think it was a good part of their quote economic birth. I mean, people would never thought the Chinese could get themselves together. People would always talk about China as a region of the world that had promise. Wrigley Gum would get a contract to sell gum in China, and I remember the conversation with some guy down in Texas and him saying, well, think about all those billions of Chinese chewing on Wrigley Gum. So, and the stock went up, I don't know, it was $3, $4, $5 that day when they got that contract. But they as a country have turned things around economically. Now, that has come at a cost. There's no doubt. China is a very austere police state, authoritarian, centralized control government. Not much of anything happens by chance in China. It is heavily designed. You asked the question, though, about what is my real view on population. Now, I would ask you, have you? I mean, I assume you're an educated man, you're a Renaissance man, you're a free thinker. All things that I love about you, Alex. Have you traveled at all to places like the Caribbean? Have you been places like in the South America? Have you
Yes.
seen some of this? Have you seen? You've been places like that. Have you seen pictures of the world at night? I'm sure you have. Where the lights out. Lights used to go out. It doesn't go out anymore. When the sun sets on a large part of the planet and we're looking at the Earth from space, you ever seen those pictures of the planet where the lights?
Yes, we see
everywhere?
lights. We see lights, especially around the coastlines.
Especially around the coastlines, but also the cities and the Northeast in particular, and the Caribbean and Puerto Rico, and there isn't much of the world that we haven't lit up, and really probably because we're afraid. That's why we have all the lights on, because we're biological creatures and we're afraid of the dark. Fear is a large element of what we as humans still face, and it's, as you point out all the time, fear has been a very effective means of controlling a population who is fear-based, and we still are. We're still afraid of what goes bump in the night, and of things and people that look different than us. We do have in regions of the world an imbalance of population relative to what the resources can support. And you take a look at places in Africa where that is the case, South America where that's the case, and in particular the Caribbean. And increasingly in the Middle East.